Hey, my book lovelies, welcome back to my channel. It's Mills, Read with Mills here, and today I'm going to do a deep dive into some of my favourite fantasy books. I'm going to have some YA ones, some spicy ones, some ones that probably everybody knows and should have read if you want to read fantasy. So let's dive in. And the only thing I need to add is, fantasy is really hard to explain. So if I am waffling, I do apologise. I find it one of the hardest genres to explain because you just want to tell people where the story goes. And of course, we don't want to do any spoilers here. So yeah, let's start with the fantasy that made me create my social media channels. I wouldn't be here today without Rebecca Ross's series. You've got Divine Rivals, which is the first in the series, and then Ruthless Vows, which is the second. And yes, I do have them in the collector's edition. I just had to get them in that. This is the whole reason that I even posted that first TikTok video, and I'm obsessed with this series. So in this book, you meet a girl called Iris. She's living in a world where there is a war amongst gods, and her brother's gone off to fight in the war. She doesn't know what's happened to him. She presumes he's no longer alive, and she is a journalist. So she writes about things happening in her town, and she hopes to be a journalist. She comes from, I guess, what you'd call the wrong side of the tracks. Her mum's a little bit hit and miss. I don't know if I can say her mum's hit and miss. I feel like her mum is mourning the loss of her son and has forgotten that Iris is existing. She's forgotten that Iris is still there. So when Iris goes to work, there's a guy called Ronan Kit, but you just call him Kit, who she works with. And he calls her Winnow because that's her surname. And they are rivals. They are genuine rivals to each other. They are competing to get this job to be the journalist. So it's kind of like an apprenticeship, and only one of them will be a journalist. And she has a typewriter, he has a typewriter, they're magical, they connect to each other, and when they write on their typewriters, they write letters to each other as secret pen pals, and the letters are delivered magically. The letters are so cute. I love when you get a letter in the book because the typeface changes, so it kind of goes like this bold colour when there's a letter, and I absolutely love that. She doesn't know she's writing to him, but he's pretty sure he knows he's writing to her. Anyway, she gets an opportunity to be a journalist in the war, so she goes to the front line, and I guess he's always loved her, but they're rivals, and he's a boy, and he tries to pretend he doesn't love her, so he kind of bullies her, and he goes to the front line with her, and that's where the story starts. The way the first book ends, you're going to want to dive straight into the second book, and then we have a new book coming out by Rebecca Ross, which is around the story of the gods that happened before this, and I cannot wait to read that. But yeah, without this series, I wouldn't even be posting here today, so I feel like as much as everybody expects me to start with Sarah J Maas, I have to start here because this is one of the most important series to me ever, and I love it. It's very YA. I would say kind of ages 12 plus this is appropriate for. Bella, where the hell you been, my loca? Of course, Twilight has to have a very good mention here. This is the series I fell in love with vampires. I remember reading this, I think I was 13 or 14 at the time. I've actually never allowed myself to do a reread, so maybe it is time to do one. But I was obsessed with this story. I was Team Jacob. I feel like I'm always Team Underdog. And this led on to me reading so many vampire books. Now, again, this is classed as a YA series. There is no actual spice on page. In this, you meet a girl called Isabella, or Bella, and she has moved to a small town in Forks where her father is the chief of police, Charlie Swan, and her mother has kind of gone away with her boyfriend, so she's moved there to go to school. And when she gets to school, she meets the Cullen family. Well, she sees them across the room and she definitely is intrigued by them, especially the youngest of the Cullen family, which is Edward, and it turns out, he's a vampire. And he shines in the sun, and the story goes from there. So in the first book, Twilight, you kind of have their initiation story. They meet the Voltura, and the Voltura is like, you must turn Bella into a vampire. You have to. She knows our secrets. She can't know our secrets. And the whole story is him just trying not to turn Bella into a vampire. So in book 2, she gets closer to Jacob, and I think that's where you find your love for Jacob, because Edward's doing what he thinks is protecting her. In book 3, it kind of all comes to a head, let me just say that. In Breaking Dawn, that book, there is a lot of intensity in Breaking Dawn. There is nicknames, there is fire, there's passion, there's everything. And then you also have Midnight Sun, which is from Edward's point of view. You can actually do a tandem read now of Twilight and Midnight Sun. So maybe I'll do that at some point. And then you have a little novella as well. But yeah, it's season coming soon. So if you have not read Twilight, don't think, oh, it's too young. And if you watch the films, you haven't read it, don't think, oh, I shouldn't read it because I watched the films. You get so much from this series. So yeah, this is what initiated my vampire obsession, and I've never looked back. Not sure why I've decided to film this with the hardback version because I've got to hold it up the whole time, but I don't think you should read Sarah J Maas in paperback. Like, I think you should only read the hardback version of Sarah J Maas. So this is ACOTAR. This is the first series that Sarah J Maas wants you to read. It's definitely more in the YA space of writing, but it has spice. So I kind of want to say the writing feels 14 plus, the spice is 18 plus. It's about a girl called Feyre, and I'm going to get the first book out and hold that up instead of holding up the whole box set. So in the first book, you meet a girl called Feyre, and she has two sisters. She's trying to provide for them. She definitely gives Katniss Everdeen vibes if you read Hunger Games, and she has a father, but she doesn't have a mother. Her mother passed away, and her father, he doesn't really do much, let's just say. He's kind of frozen in time. And she goes into the woods, she shoots down a wolf and kills it, and unfortunately, she finds out that that wolf is Fae. So Tamlin, who is in charge of the Spring Court, crosses the border into the human land from Prythian, which is the Fae land, and he's like, you have to come and live in the Spring Court forever. Now, the whole thing with ACOTAR is debate on how to say a certain character's name. So there is a character in this book, I'll put his name on the screen. I pronounce it Rysand. I think I'm correct, but a lot of people pronounce it Rysand. Let me know in the comments which way you pronounce it, but I think Rysand is correct. And she may have a story with him as well. But yeah, you firstly meet Tamlin. A lot of people I know struggled with the first book and then loved the rest of the series. I actually loved the first book. I kind of feel like it's a Beauty and the Beast vibe. It sets the scene. You need it to know where the story is progressing, and you need it to kind of have an anger towards a certain character that you may love and then you may hate. So yeah, it's such a good series. It's where you start your Sarah J Maas journey. You then go on to Throne of Glass, which is definitely more adventure fantasy. That's for ages 14 plus. I think that one is more in the Y space. And then you move on to Crescent City. Now, a lot of people ask me, do you have to read all of them? I would say you have to read ACOTAR and Crescent City as kind of in that order. So you've got to do 5 books in ACOTAR, then the 3 books in Crescent City. Then we know we've got ACOTAR 6 coming out, and you have to have read the 3 Crescent City books to go into ACOTAR 6 is what we've been told. But Throne of Glass being more of a solid series, it can be read completely as a standalone, and it can be skipped if you're not into that kind of adventure fantasy. So it more gives the vibes of Game of Thrones, Lord of the Rings. So if you think I want more romance and not as much fantasy, you can skip that one completely. And there is a whole debate on Throne of Glass reading order, which I don't agree with. So yeah, there's always that fun. But this series, if you haven't read any fantasy, this is a really good place to start. It definitely gets you into the world of fantasy. Then we have the Empyrean series by Rebecca Yarros. So this isn't a completed series yet either. There's currently 3 books out, and we know there's going to be 5, but you kind of want to read this along while the hype is there. So you've got Fourth Wing, Iron Flame, and Onyx Storm. Again, this is another good place to start if you haven't read a lot of fantasy. A lot of people start here, or they start ACOTAR. If I'm looking at it, I'm kind of deciding where I would start if I was starting from the beginning. I would probably say here, the world building I think is a lot easier in the first book of this compared to ACOTAR to know if you're going to be a romantasy fan. And these are all romantasy books I feel like I'm talking about. I'm not the biggest high fantasy reader, so I don't think I can do high fantasy justice just yet. So in this book, you meet a girl called Violet, and she has a lot of issues with her health. She's small, she has pain, but that's not going to stop her. I actually really love the chronic illness representation that you get in Fourth Wing. It's so subtle, but it's there. And she has gone off to Basgiath War College to train to be a scribe. So the scribes sit kind of in this library in the basement, scribing wars, scribing all the history of the Empyrean world. And she gets to the Basgiath College, and her mother's like, nope, you're going to be a dragon rider. Now, she's not trained to be a dragon rider, she's not built to be a dragon rider, and to be a dragon rider, unlike a scribe, you have to pass these trials. And if you fail these trials, you may not even be alive. Like, you have to go in next year, or I guess you can go and join another group. I'm not really sure what would happen if you didn't pass. It wouldn't be good, let's just say that. And when she gets there, there are a group of people, Xaden is part of this group, and they are kind of exiled from the world. So their parents started a war, and they have these marks on them to show them that they are the children of the parents who were removed from the world, and then the children were marked to show these are the parents of traitors. And he definitely does not like her. He's snarky to her, he makes sly comments. She really thinks he's going to remove her from the world, and that's where their relationship develops from there. You get dragons. You have to bond with the dragon. It's so good. I love the dragons as well, because you do get to hear a little bit of what's going on inside the dragon's head. Once you bond with a dragon, you can hear its thoughts, you can communicate with it telepathically. This series has everything. It has heartbreak. Oh, the end of the first book is going to hurt your soul so much. It has spice. It has drama. It has a little bit of dark academia vibes because it's in that college setting. It's got trials. It's got trials where you want to read it slightly like this because you don't know if Violet's going to make it through or not. This book's going to put you through a lot. Let me just tell you that. You are going to be on a big journey with it, but it is so good. The ending of the first book was heartbreaking. There's also a shock twist, which you can always expect with Rebecca Yarros's writing style. She seems to end each book on such a twist, like the third book. I love the ending. A lot of people don't love Iron Flame as much, and I think that's because the fantasy really kicked up in that book. So that's why I was saying you may want to start with ACOTAR first, get a little bit more used to that YA fantasy before diving into Empyrean. But if you know you're a fantasy lover and you haven't picked this up yet, please do. I probably just waffled on that for like 10 minutes there, but I love this book so much. Then we have another YA series that I have been absolutely obsessed with. I still think, even though it's classed as a YA series, I wouldn't class it as that because there's such suggested spice and suggested intention on page. So you've got the Crimson Moth, which is the first, and then the Rebel Witch, which is the second in the duology. So in this first book, you meet a girl who is a witch, and she's hiding the fact that she's a witch from the world because they are being removed. Like, witch hunters are out there getting witches and sending them to their deaths, literally. So she is this vigilante called the Crimson Moth. So she kind of breaks into the scene, she steals the witches, she gets them on boats, she gets them out the country, she gets them safe. They're all trying to find the Crimson Moth. So these witch hunters are headed up by a guy called Gideon, and he is adamant he needs to find the Crimson Moth. And when he meets her, he's known her all his life. He's like, she either is the Crimson Moth, he starts to get this vibe, or she is involved with the Crimson Moth, and he can't work out which, so he kind of sets a few traps. Part of the trap is to seduce her. And at the same time, she is honestly so funny. She's like, I'm going to seduce him. So she's called Rune, and she's like, I'm going to seduce him. I'm going to make him think I fancy him, so he kind of gets off my back. The way that they are with each other, it's true enemies to lovers. They shouldn't like each other. He's a witch hunter, she's a witch, but you do get that enemies to lovers vibe. It will have you hooked. It will have you turning the pages. Like I said, it's just a duology. I kind of want more from Kristen Ciccarelli on this. I need more from her. I don't think we'll ever get more in this world, but I'm kind of hoping maybe we get a spin-off series in this world. But if you've never read anything witchy as well, this is so easy to get into. The fantasy is hardly there. It kind of gives like Bridgerton vibes, and it's super easy to read. So if you're new to fantasy, this is a really good place to start if you don't want to do all that world building element. You know I'm obsessed with an author when I get the advanced copies out. So A Language of Dragons by S.F. Williamson. I've met Steph, she is amazing. And we now have a War of Wyverns. I never know how to pronounce them, I'm gonna have to ask her, which is the second in the series. I think it's gonna be a trilogy. This is so good for kind of history, dragons, and fantasy fans. You get a little bit of everything. So I do have the first copy of the book here. Obviously the second book isn't out until January in 2026, but you can read this. So in this book, you follow a girl who potentially starts a war between humans and dragons. They've kind of coexisted for years under a law where dragons have to abide by certain rules. Otherwise, they're kind of tied up, locked away, and not really given a chance to do anything. Like one of them, you meet a library dragon, and it's so sad. It's really sad. So anyway, this war starts, and she is kind of captured by humans and taken to Bletchley Park. Now, I've visited Bletchley Park, so I can really visualise the setting here as well, which I love. And when she goes off to Bletchley Park, she is sent there to learn this new dragon language. So dragons supposedly communicate in sonar, and Steph said she set this in the 1920s so that no kind of human technology could affect the sonar language, because nowadays we have so much other things floating around with mobiles and radar and everything that it just wouldn't have worked as a setting. So she's in Bletchley Park with potentially somebody that she has betrayed a long time ago, and it's really awkward for her to see that person again, and she's got to crack this dragon language to save the war, and well, to make humans win the war of dragons. And she has this whole ethical debate, because does she want humans to win? Does she want to hurt dragons? And I guess also, if she doesn't, what happens to her? Because they've kind of said to her that she'll be removed from the world if she doesn't complete this task. Now, I've met Steph once. I will be meeting her another time this year, and probably next year as well. So I think in the end I'll end up meeting her at least 3 times in my life. I love her so much. She is so intelligent. The way she writes is so easy to read. When I met her, I got my book signed, which is so special, but also she has a special dragon stamp when you do meet her in person. So rather than just the standard signed copy, you do get the special dragon stamp, which I just love. So yeah, you get a lot of different dragons in this as well. She explains the different types of dragons. It's really easy to read. There is a small romantic interest. I'm kind of wondering if that'll develop a little bit more in book 2, but it definitely sits more in the YA fantasy category than romantasy. But it is such a good read, and probably one I don't see as many people talking about, but has to be on my list. As soon as I have advanced copies of a book, I think you guys know I'm kind of obsessed with it. We are going really far back in time. This was my obsession post Twilight. Like I said, I had to get my hands on anything vampires, and the House of Night series by PC and Kristen Cast, I think it's a mother-daughter authors, is so good. This was, I guess, the first time I kind of read on-page spice, and I was hooked. Like, I remember at the time reading it like this. Nobody look at what I'm reading if I was on holiday with my family or anything like that. It's not the spiciest thing ever, but for a 14-year-old, it's definitely kind of like Angus Thorne's and Perfect Snogging level of inappropriate spice for a 14-year-old, but I loved it. So in this book, you meet a girl called Zoe, and she's marked by a tracker, and she has to go to the House of Night school and train to be a vampire, and that's where the story starts. There is deception, there is intrigue, there is relationships, there are plot twists, there are everything you can imagine in this world. There are so many books in this world as well. I think there's 11 or 12 books, and it's been confirmed that it's either going to be a TV series or a film series very soon. So it's such a throwback for me. But if you have not read this and you kind of want to go back into the world of vampires, I still think as an adult I would read this and love it. I'm kind of waiting to know when we're getting a release date, and then I am going to do a reread. I never do rereads, but it's been so long since I was in this world. I remember getting all the books, being obsessed. Like, you can tell these are my old books because they've gone slightly yellow on the pages. Like, that's how long ago I had them. Let me see when this book came out. Let me have a look, because this is an old one, guys. 2007. So I was exactly 14. Yeah, I got that correct. Wow. Wow, this is a throwback. I know not many people will have access to these books. They're hard to get. Not many people will have potentially read these books, but they needed a mention because this series, Twilight's, I loved vampires. This series solidified my love for spice and vampires, which leads me on to the next series I'm about to talk about. The World of Nyaxia by Carissa Broadbent. Wow, wow, wow. This series is next level. It's really confusing to know how to read this series, first of all. So there are currently 2 duologies in the series and then 2 standalone books. There's a whole debate on reading order. If you want me to go through reading order, I definitely can do that on like a short for you. This is the place to start. The Serpent and the Wings of Night, and then you definitely want to make sure you've read The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King. That is the complete Araya and Rain story. If you then choose to read nothing else in the world, that is fine, but you will miss out on Misha's story, and Misha is such a good character. So in this book, you meet Araya, and she is human, but she's been adopted by a Nightborn vampire king called Vincent, and he's brought her up in his world, and he's the head of one of the vampire houses. And this tournament of Kajari happens every so often, and she wants to enter. So you enter, normally it's only vampires, so she's the only human entering, which kind of puts her a little bit of a back burner. You enter this world, and when you enter it, you compete in the tournament, and if you win a wish from the goddess Nyaxia. And in this world, it's actually really hard to turn into a vampire. I love that. They can't just be bitten, and like loads of them don't survive just being bitten and turned. But you meet Rain, who obviously has survived that. And he kind of is a true enemies, I guess, to... I wouldn't even say enemies to lovers necessarily to begin with. I'd say enemies to working together. So they decide to support each other through these trials. He sees something beneficial in her. She obviously sees something beneficial in him. It's called fangs. Bear in mind, she hasn't got any. And that's where the story goes from there. It will break your heart. It will tear it out. The spice is great. The intensity is so good. So I definitely recommend grabbing this. Like 100% recommend grabbing it. It's amazing. So yeah, if you haven't read The Crown of Nyaxia World, please dive in. And if you want to know a little bit more about the reading order, just let me know in the comments. Then I'm just going to do a little shout out to 3 indie published books that have been picked up to be traditionally published. I get so excited when, I guess, publishers find indie published books and are like, yeah, we're going to make this happen. So there's 3 this year that are going to be huge. Like, I have seen so much on them. So the first is On Wings of Blood. This is Fae, Vampires and Dragons. I've read the first book in the series. There is 3 books in the series. I cannot now get my hands on book 2 or 3, so I will be getting these when they are traditionally published. I also will grab the first one. This is now out for you to grab in traditionally published style. I'm not going to go through it too much. I just want to do like a recognition section of the video. The second is Diabound by Sable Sorensen. This is about a wolf and you have to bind with the wolves. I think you have to, the word correct is probably binding here. Again, this is going to be a huge one. I have read this as well. And then the final one, which I'm just starting at the moment, is Metal Slinger. You can tell I've only just started this, by Rachel Schneider. I'm really excited. This one's meant to have a big plot twist ending. So these are the 3 books that are meant to be like this year's fantasy books that have been picked up from indie to trad. So I just think it's worth doing like a little appreciation for indie books that have been picked up to be traditionally published. So there we have it. These are just some of my favourite fantasy books. I have so many more I love, so if you love that video, let me know. If there's a specific genre like vampires that you want me to go down, do let me know and I can definitely do that. Or dragons, I can definitely do more of a deep dive into some other dragon books that I know and love. But yes, if you enjoyed the video, make sure you hit subscribe and turn that notification on so you're notified when I post on Saturdays. And I hope you have a lovely day, and I'll see you soon, book lovelies. Bye!